metropolitan Chicago's cable television companies.
Do you like our owl?
It's artificial?
Of course it is.
Must be expensive.
Very. I'm Rachel.
Deckard.
Harrison Ford as a futuristic policeman out to capture a robot in Blade Runner. One of 4 new movies we'll be reviewing on sneak previews. Across the aisle from me, Roger Ebert, film critic for the Chicago Sun-Times.
This is Gene Siskel, film critic for the Chicago Tribune. In addition to Blade Runner, we'll also be reviewing a detective story set in San Francisco's Chinatown. It's called Chan is Missing. We'll also do 8 Minutes to Midnight, a documentary about the anti-nuclear movement. But first, Gene starts with a sensitive movie about growing up in Baltimore. It's called Diner.
Our first film, I think, is one of the year's best. A portrait of a bunch of young men in Baltimore in 1959 growing up or failing to grow up as life would have it. And virtually every night of the week, these young men congregate at the neighborhood diner just to hang out.
You know
Just let it go.
You know he wants
You're
it.
annoying. Yes,
I'm annoying. I'm trying to eat a meal by
If you
myself.
want to give him the sandwich, give him the sandwich. If you don't want to give him the sandwich, don't.
I don't
just
want to give
forget
it.
Well, then just eat the sandwich
Then
and shut
don't-
up.
Well, look at his
I
eyes.
ask one simple question, you get it. You know what your problem is? You don't chew your food. That's why you get so irritable. It lumps. You have like roast beef in your heart. It just stays there.
Oh, Modell, you're really getting me mad now. My blood is boiling.
See, I don't like it.
I'll take the sandwich.
No,
Okay,
don't.
Fine, I'll take the sandwich.
See what you do.
What are you blaming me? You took the sandwich. I'm sitting, I'm having a cup
You
of
want
coffee.
this?
That's it.
No.
want this?
I don't want it.
I do.
I can't believe you're eating this. You know, you two play against me. That's what the problem is. You're both on each other's side.
The man has got their opinion. Then they're two separate people.
Yes, I know.
He's got a brain.
Don't have to forget about it.
Bagel heard about my basketball bet.
Hey, I'm already down for $10.
Oh, big spender.
Come on.
Hey, listen, Eddie. If you guys want in on this, I'm gonna tell you now they're shaving points in this game.
You heard the shaving points?
How do you know?
I heard about your tips before. It cost me $50.
How do you know?
No way.
No.
What's your resource?
Don't get in.
You listen to me. They're shaving points on this game. Do you want in or not?
They're definitely shaving points? You feel secure?
Forget
Who's the
it.
guy? Who's the guy?
Well, then why do you always gotta ask
Because
so
I don't
many
know who the guy is.
questions?
I don't know if you trust him. Let me make it 15 because... Make it 15.
Boy, what do you... Wait for a second. I want to ask you a question.
I mean, you don't make it 20. If you're really sure, make it $20. Go
Don't
make it
do
20
it,
bucks.
Modell. I'm telling you, I lost $50 last game.
All right, you guys
tips
talk
are
your
pretty
off
good.
on the subject. Can you quit?
Later that same night, they have another debate on who's the better singer, Johnny Mathis, I think, or Frank Sinatra, and this is very important to them. All of their squabbles, of course, are just a cool method of expressing intense affection and true friendship. The film also explores the way some of these men relate to the women in their lives. Here's a scene with Daniel Stern arguing with his wife, Ellen Barkin, about her carelessness with his prized record collection.
Beth. Beth,
What?
come here.
I'm doing a crossword puzzle.
Come here.
Here we are sitting there, playing the fender, drinking gin. Now
What?
that the night has begun,
Have you been playing my records?
baby, ain't we having
Yeah,
fun?
so?
So didn't I tell you the
We'll
procedure?
sit right around,
Yeah, you told me all about it, Shrevey. They have to be in alphabetical order.
And what else?
but when the night is done,
They have to be filed alphabetically and according to year as well, okay?
And what else?
What else?
I don't know.
You don't know. Well, let me give you a hint, okay? I found my James Brown record filed under the J's instead of the B's. I don't know who taught you to alphabetize, but to top it off, he's in the rock and roll section instead of the R&B section. How can you do that?
It's too complicated, Shrivi. See, every time I pull out a record, there's this whole procedure I have to go through. I just want to hear the music, that's all.
Is it too complicated to just keep my records in the category, okay? Just put the rock and roll in with the rock and roll. Put the R&B in with the R&B. I mean, you're not going to put Charlie Parker in with the rock and roll, would you? Would you?
I don't know. Who is Charlie Parker?
Look, pick a record, okay?
What?
Just pick any record. Any record. Okay. What's the hit side?
Good golly, Miss Molly.
Okay. Now ask me what's on the flip side.
Why?
Just ask me what's on the flip side, okay?
What is on the flip side?
Hey, 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 hey. 1958 Specialty Records.
Congratulations, young man. That argument, of course, is a cover for something else. In this case, a young couple that obviously has grown at different rates since they got married. And it's a moment that really rings true, and that's what Diner consists of, moments like, just like that. These are characters we think we know when the movie is over. We identify with them, we understand them because we've lived moments like they are living. Diner is about slices of interesting lives, and I'm always ready to see a picture that shows that.
You know, I love the picture, too. I hate to admit it, but I really identify with that guy and his alphabetized record collection. If anybody messes with my records, you know, they better look out.
Right.
And there's a lot of stuff like that in the movie, moments of truth, and we can identify attitudes. I think the one attitude that goes all through the movie, though, and is kind of unspoken, is fear of women.
Yes.
You know, a lot of these movies where the guys are, we're supposed to, oh, they're macho, they're having fun, they're drinking beer, they're driving around in their convertibles. This is all positive, it's good, in that kind of movie, like American Graffiti. In this film, it's a little more perceptive. These guys are afraid of women. Women are an undiscovered country as far as they're concerned.
Yes, and one, here you can see it. He's more attentive to the record collection. He has security in the alphabetizing system. There's another guy, now that you mentioned this, a good point, another guy who gives his wife a football, he gives his fiancée a football quiz about the Baltimore Colts, who had a championship team back then. And he's obviously cares more about football, or at least can care.
Essentially, she has to prove to him that she's an honorary man.
Exactly.
You know, because he doesn't want to mess around with that
It's a very
stuff.
special film, and when I see something like this, I think how simple. The writing is very good here by Barry Levinson, the directing too. And but it's simple, and yet works beautifully.
Good picture. Our next film is a documentary named 8 Minutes to Midnight, a portrait of a Boston pediatrician named Helene Caldecott, who resigned from Harvard Medical School to devote full time to the anti-nuclear movement. And the film follows Dr. Caldecott on a seemingly endless round of speeches, seminars, talk show appearances, as she promotes her book Nuclear Madness and warns of the dangers not only of nuclear war, but also of nuclear power, nuclear waste, and industrial radiation. Here she is emotionally addressing an anti-nuclear rally.
The reason why I've come here today is that 2 weeks ago I was in Australia. That's where I come from. And the Indians of Australia are the Aborigines. And they've lived there for millions of years. And it happens that the government has just passed a law saying the Aborigines own their sacred tribal land. It's their land. And just after they passed that law, the government found uranium on the land. So then the government passed another law and they said, however, you own the land, but if we find uranium on it, we're allowed to take the uranium. You made a slideshow for me, and I took those slideshows to show to the Aborigines. And there was a man called Dick, who is the tribal leader. He owns the land, Dick. And Dick came out of the meeting and he said, when I saw those pictures, he said, it hurts my heart in here to see those pictures. I don't know what we can do, folks, but we've got to stop it. You see what... We're about to destroy the most beautiful people in the world. the Indians, and the Aborigines. And they know what the world's about because they worship the earth. They know that people belong to this earth, that we are part of it.
Well, that's an effective scene, but it appears like an oasis in the middle of a flat, repetitive, boring film that seems endless, even though it lasts only about 60 minutes. The movie uses the techniques of television news documentaries, and like a lot of TV news, it captures only the public, surface reality of Dr. Caldecott. It's not the portrait of a life, it's not the portrait of a person, it's not really a documentary about nuclear dangers either. The film's real subjects are talk shows and book promotion tours, the life on the road of an author and organizer. Helene Caldecott comes across in this film as a committed woman, articulate, intelligent, but the film sees her in about as much depth as the average talk show guest. She comes on, she recites her statistics, she gives her warnings, then it's time for a break. 8 Minutes to Midnight is a superficial film about a very serious subject.
I agree with you. I was very disappointed in the film. You know, a common criticism of film critics is that they will like a film if it's on the right side of a public issue. In other words, a lot of people might say, well, you like the China Syndrome because it's anti-nuclear destruction. And sometimes that criticism is true, so I expected in this film to like it, because nobody wants to see the world blow up. The woman's trying to do a good job for humanity, but it's a boring movie, and it just hits you with it.
It is.
She doesn't say anything interesting. I clocked it until about minute number 27.
And she doesn't say anything in the film, really, that we haven't heard before, nor does the film present it in a graphic way that really makes these realities. It becomes a documentary of her saying it.
That's right.
Here she is on the train, here she is at the airport, here she is speaking before the group.
A lot of statistics.
Here she is on a talk show.
A lot of statistics are thrown at us. You and I both work for newspapers, and we know one of the cheapest ways to do an interview is just quote the person, dispassionately. Just throw numbers, throw their words, and sign off. And that's pretty much what this film does, and it doesn't work as a movie at all.
Doesn't probe as much as it should.
No,
you're right.
It doesn't question her. Our next film, Chan is Missing, is a rarity of a movie. It's the first feature film I've ever seen about contemporary Chinese Americans. In this case, Chinese Americans in San Francisco's Chinatown. It's a mystery that involves two business partners, one old, one young, and their search for a man named Chan. They paid him $4,000 in order to rent a cab, and he then disappeared. The mystery is beguiling for sure, but the film really gains a lot of its power from the sheer fact that it takes us behind the usual stereotypes in Chinese restaurant facades, which is usually all that most of us non-Chinese really know about Chinese Americans. In this scene, this odd couple of characters, the two partners, knock on the door of Chan's neighbor looking for the missing Chan. The film is shot in black and white.
You come in here every night.
But she ain't in.
Looking for John Hill? Look for that woman who took picture.
You know him?
Hey, we're friends of John Hong. My name's Joe.
Hey, Joe. Just a fast man. Dum-da-dum-dum. Look for the woman who took the photographs from Chan Yung's room.
What about this woman who took those pictures? Can you tell us more?
That's a relative.
Hey, Joe, you want Chan Yung's bill? They gave them all me. Your woman don't want them either.
Is she a relative? Can we come in and talk to you?
Yeah, tell him what to tell him.
Can we see the bills?
Hey, Joe, you see Rockford last night? All rerun. Woman in red took photographs.
Doesn't know what kind of photograph.
What kind of pictures are they? Can you let us in so we can look at them?
Hey, you Chinese, Joe?
Hey,
Are you Chinese?
I Chinese. I don't like Chinese, though.
Hey, what about that woman? Is she a relative of Chan Hong?
Hey, Joe. You police?
No, we're not cops.
No, business partners of Chun Hong.
You know, I don't want nothing to do with Chinese.
Hey, hello.
Hey, can we talk to you for a minute, sir? We just need to talk to you.
Hey, hello. Hello.
Get it. Let's go the other way. Got your magnum? Let's go.
That young actor is fabulous. I'd watch him in any movie. Eventually, after a lot of walking around Chinatown, the older man does locate a couple of clues, including the link to a photograph found in Chan's hotel room.
Today, a community newspaper published a photograph of the flag-waving incident. But some people claim that it was of another flag-waving incident 2 years ago. People think that it was published to take the heat off of finding the real one. This is all too confusing. I went home to get a bite to eat. There was only a piece of leftover pizza. Chen Hung used to always talk about how Marco Polo stole everything from us. First pasta, then pizza. Too bad the Chinese didn't have tomatoes. But I shouldn't complain. The only thing I use my oven for is to store gadgets. I guess I'm no gourmet Chinese cook, and I'm no Charlie Chan either. Although I did start watching some of his reruns for cheap laughs. Charlie says, "When superior men have no clue, be patient. Maybe he become lucky." The next night, I was cleaning out the cab Chen Hung was driving the day he disappeared. I found a letter in Chinese and a gun under the front seat. The police are still looking for the gun the old man used to shoot his neighbor. Steve thinks it's the gun I found in Chen Hung's cab. He thinks that Chen Hung was the one who actually killed the neighbor, and that the old man was just covering up for him. I tried to contact the old man again. He still refuses to see me. But he told me that Chen Hung had nothing to do with the murder or the flag-waving incident. He said that Chen Hung just got paranoid and made everything up in his own mind.
I love even the way the gun is photographed, highlighting its importance by showing it in relief like that, the quiet, and then the music. Chan is Missing has a very special ending, which is a clever twist, appropriate enough, on those old Charlie Chan movies where Charlie gathers all the suspects into the same room. But this is a difference. Rather than give us characters who each might have a reason for killing this guy Chan, this film gives us characters, and they each have a different opinion about Chan and who he really is. In this film, various elements of Chan's character are placed on display, and we are left with a lot of questions. Chan is Missing has been very cleverly directed by Wayne Wang. Visual style of the film really reminds me of John Cassavetes' first movie, Shadows. Both films are quite intimate with their characters, with a lot of handheld close-ups, black and white again. And that is what also encourages us to look for Chan. Chan is Missing is a terrific little movie. I just hope you can find it in your town.
It's in release around the country right now in various art houses, and I loved it too. You know, what I liked about it most was that it was made from inside Chinatown, inside the Chinese-American culture.
We never get there.
And this is the first, as you mentioned, the first Chinese-American feature film made by people who know the subject. Usually what you get is Chinese New Year's with James Bond being chased through the streets of Chinatown and dragons and firecrackers, and all the people are just ciphers and mysteries as far as we're concerned.
There's such power always generated by the first in a category, the first look behind. There's no question. Plus, the film, that would have been enough to carry it, but what we have here is two very clever characters. Mark Hayashi is the young man, Wood Moy is the older, the young man, Wood Moy is the older one. This is a very clever bit of casting, very sharp people.
It's a funny movie, it's intelligent. Also, it is about Chinese Americans, in the sense that there are a couple of great scenes where they're talking about how a Chinese person would say it this way, an American person would say it this way. You've got to know the clue in order to understand what's really being said. It's a fascinating movie. I hate to say it's educational, that makes it sound terrible, but I learned a lot about these
We're
people.
ignorant.
Okay, so it's a double recommendation, I guess, on that one.
Yeah.
So far, we've reviewed 3 low-budget, ambitious, small films. Our next film is Blade Runner, a big-budget science fiction fantasy. It's also ambitious. It creates a futuristic Los Angeles in the year 2020 as the setting for a story about cops and robots. Harrison Ford stars as the cop. His assignment is to track down a group of replicants who have escaped from off-world. They're hiding out in Los Angeles. Well, what is a replicant? It's an android or artificial man or woman that looks and sounds absolutely realistic, but isn't. In the world of the future, replicants are slaves, forbidden to visit Earth, and when they come to Los Angeles, the cops go looking for them. In this scene, Harrison Ford begins to suspect that the woman he's attracted to may be more or less than human.
I drop music. You play beautifully. Say, kiss me.
Kiss me.
I want you.
I want you. I want you.
That's an actress named Sean Young as the woman who may or may not be a replicant. This movie goes, what do you mean may or may not? Well, I don't want to, you guessed it?
No kidding.
Okay, fine. This movie goes through some pretty predictable paces about their forbidden love, but I was never really very interested in the characters in Blade Runner. I didn't find it convincing. Instead, what impressed me in this film were the special effects, the wonderful use of optical trickery to show me a gigantic imaginary Los Angeles, which in the vision of this movie has been turned into sort of a futuristic Tokyo. Here's a scene where Harrison Ford zips over the streets of L.A. in a squad car of the future.
The charmer's name was Gaff. I'd seen him around. Brian must have upped him to the Blade Runner unit. That gibberish he talked was city speak, gutter talk, a mishmash of Japanese, Spanish, German, what have you. I didn't really need a translator. I knew the lingo every good cop did. But I wasn't going to make it easier for him.
The special effects there were designed by a team led by Douglas Trumbull, who created the visuals for 2001 and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He doesn't stop with flying squad cars and towering skyscrapers. He imagines all the details of life in the year 2020, right down to what the noodles will look like in a Japanese restaurant. They'll look just like noodles do today.
Yeah, about creative, yeah.
About halfway through Blade Runner, I realized I stopped caring about the people in the movie. I was interested mostly in the special effects. It's a great movie to look at, but a hard one to care about. I didn't appreciate the predictable story, the standard characters, the cliffhanging cliches, but I do think the special effects make Blade Runner worth going to see.
I agree with part of your review. Predictable, cliches.
What about the special effects?
Dazzling for the first 20 minutes, and then what? I mean, the story goes no place as far as I'm concerned. I invested a lot of energy in this movie watching it because it was so striking looking. And Harrison Ford is an attractive actor, and he does take us through any adventure that he's in. But I'm sitting there halfway through the picture saying, where is this going? And when it's over, I think I've wasted my time. I admire the special effects, but Roger, there are a lot of people in this country and in England who can do this quality of special effects, so I don't
There are not a lot of people who can do this
a handful.
quality.
What I'm saying is that
5 or 6.
They in and of themselves, that in and of themselves doesn't make it a film worth going to see.
I'm trying to give Blade Runner a pretty specific review. I didn't believe in the story. I didn't care about the characters. On the other hand, to look at the film, the set decoration, the design, the visual conception of this Los Angeles didn't get tired for me in 20 minutes. I felt as if I were being shown a world I hadn't seen before.
It was done by Ridley Scott, who made a similarly attractive-looking film, an Alien, but at least they had a conventional pull you through the picture story there, a horror film. This film, I think, is a waste of time. Pretty to look at, but a waste of time. Wow.
Well, there's a canine special effect
right
team,
here.
Sparky the Wonder Dog, bounding into the balcony to help us pick out the dogs of the week, the week's worst movies.
Yeah, he doesn't like this film. My dog this week is Pranks, or at least that was the title on the theater marquee where I saw it. However, at the end of the film, I spotted a copyright notice, 1981, that said the film's title was Death Dorm. That's more like it. And Roger, I bet you can guess what Death Dorm is about. Yes, no, you don't have to guess. I know that you're thinking it's a mad slasher movie about a guy stalking college kids as if today's tuitions weren't enough. The gimmick here is that 4 kids are left alone to inventory a dorm that is being demolished. Along the way, they are demolished. And you will be able to guess the identity of the killer right away. Roger and I have talked about quite often and even prayed for the end of these mad slasher films, but Death Dorm or Pranks or whatever you want to call it proves they're very much alive and very bad.
It's alive. My dog this week is named Paradise, and it's one of those fantasy love stories where a beautiful teenage couple is marooned thousands of miles away from civilization and parents. Paradise stars Willie Ames and Phoebe Cates, 2 good-looking kids whose camel caravan is bushwhacked by Arabs in the middle of the desert. All the grown-ups are killed, and most of the camels run away, but unfortunately, Willie and Phoebe escape on one camel and find refuge in a cave with a wonderful waterfall where they take long showers in the nude while looking at each other from behind the corners of pillars. The rest of the movie consists of the kids reading old biology textbooks and discovering that, hey, their own bodies are just like the bodies in these diagrams. Wow. Next chapter, please. The movie's basically a ripoff of a very similar box office hit named Blue Lagoon. You remember that one? With Brooke Shields and Christopher Atkins. Remember, it had the shots of the turtles making love. Well, thank God these kids only have 1 camel.
Okay. So much for the dogs. Now to recap our reaction to the main movies on this show. We both admired Diner, the slice of life film set in Baltimore in 1959. It's one of the year's best. 2 yes votes, meaning we both can recommend you see it. 2 no votes, though, for 8 Minutes to Midnight, the anti-nuclear energy and weapons film. The intent is noble for sure, but the filmmaking is pedestrian. And 2 more yes votes for Chan is Missing, the subtle Chinese-American mystery. The trick with this picture is finding it in your town. And finally, we split on Blade Runner, the futuristic drama with Harrison Ford. Roger really enjoyed the film's special effects, but where was the story? Nowhere, I thought, so I vote no.
Well, that's all for this week. Next time on Sneak Previews, we'll take a look at an animated fantasy featuring the voices of Dom DeLuise and John Carradine. It's called The Secret of Nim. And we'll look at Megaforce, about a futuristic soldier of fortune starring Barry Bostwick. Until then, we'll see you at the movies.